So to follow up our most recent video about tvOS 19 and what to expect, which I do highly recommend you guys check out, I wanted to talk about another underrated OS in the Apple ecosystem, which has to be watchOS. watchOS 12 is set to release or at least be announced alongside the rest of the operating systems at WWDC on June 9th, and Apple has an opportunity here to really kind of capitalize on the blunder that Whoop created earlier this month or earlier this year. So without further ado, let's talk about all things watchOS 12, what to expect, and what we know so far. Let's get into it. So just to give you a little bit of context as to my relationship with the Apple Watch, I'm pretty much addicted to making sure that it's on every single day to make sure that I'm closing all my fitness rings on a daily basis. I know that the gamification sometimes can be a little bit too much when it comes to tracking all your vitals and things of that nature, but I do think it has a net positive effect to make sure that, hey, you're getting your steps in, make sure that you're getting in a workout every single day, and just remaining active overall, and that's something that the Apple Watch has been doing great, and it's been doing that for years now at this point. And then with the introduction last year of things like the Vitals application, as well as better sleep tracking, and then of course, we also had the training load data, which was set to kind of begin to compare itself a little bit more to the Whoop ecosystem. I think Apple took some great first steps into that realm. And now with watchOS 12, they're just going to add on top of that, add more features around it, and then also with the addition of some new hardware, probably in September or October, when the Apple Watch Series 11 or a new Apple Watch Ultra comes out, we will be getting some additional key metrics and vitals features that I think a lot of people are going to like. So very similar to tvOS and the rest of the visual overhaul that's going to be taking over all of Apple's new operating systems, we're going to be getting a whole new face and UI change to watchOS 12. So think about the same type of UI features. Again, it's going to be miniaturized because obviously the display is much smaller, but the same idea is going to happen where it's going to be a little bit more translucent, a little bit more see-through, a little bit easier to tell when things are layered over one another, but not to the point where it does get confusing. So think about a lot of opaque kind of layers on the Apple Watch, which I'm all for. This idea of bringing a 2D plane and making it feel and look more 3D overall. And this new watchOS 12 is codenamed Salilarium, which again is to kind of highlight that very glass-like feature when it comes to the UI elements being changed up. And to coincide with that, we're going to have bolder and more legible fonts, and everything's going to be a lot more uniform across the entire operating system or the Apple ecosystem. But now again, as we know, watchOS 12 is a software update, so nothing from a hardware perspective is going to be announced at WWDC, but Apple should be announcing some Apple Intelligence integrations into the Apple Watch with watchOS 12. But again, it remains yet to be seen which Apple Watches will be able to support it. But one thing to note here is that, of course, with the new iPhones that have been out with the iPhone 16 lineup, one of the biggest reasons people got the iPhone 16 was for Apple Intelligence, and that's because it had 8 gigs of RAM. Now, Apple Watches do not have 8 gigs of RAM in order to run Apple Intelligence on device, so it's going to be relying heavily on your iPhone, especially in the beginning when there isn't any new hardware. It remains yet to be seen if maybe an Apple Watch Ultra 4 or Apple Watch Ultra 3 or an Apple Watch Series 11 will have enough RAM or some sort of mastery with their software tricks to kind of trick the Apple Watch into thinking it has enough RAM in order to run Apple Intelligence on device. But for the older Apple Watches that will be getting watchOS 12, we will be getting Apple Intelligence features. It'll just rely on making sure that it's using and always connected to an iPhone or to a device that does have Apple Intelligence capabilities. So again, most of these Apple Intelligence tasks will be offloaded to your iPhone via Bluetooth to then either do it on device on the iPhone or either go to the cloud or whatever the case may be with watchOS 12. And let me know in the comment down below if that's something that you want to bring to your watch. I actually think Apple Intelligence, or at least a smarter version of Siri, does work out better on your watch because I talk to my watch way more than I talk to my actual iPhone when it comes to simple tasks like starting a timer, asking for a recipe, asking for the scores of the game. So being able to talk to your Apple Watch and get a better response, a more contextually relevant response, and a more conversational response is something that I can see being very beneficial on your wrist. So let's see how Apple ends up implementing this, but we will get some sort of Apple Intelligence. Hopefully it's not just the rainbow animation, hopefully it's something substantial, but something will be coming to watchOS 12. It's going to trickle down into better complications. It's going to trickle down to better adaptive face suggestions or different boards or different cards. So all that's just going to kind of combine into one, into making your Apple Watch just that much more efficient, that much smarter, and ultimately that much more useful. So now when it comes to health and fitness upgrades, this will be a little bit more reliant on some new hardware that could be coming out, but there will be some software features that do trickle down to older models, even if you have the most recent, Apple Watch Ultra 2 in black titanium. So one of the big things that happened this month is the Whoop announcement, and Whoop kind of upsetting a lot of its users and its customers by taking those people that have been customers for years and still making them pay for new hardware, and having a subscription model that basically is the cost of a brand new Apple Watch every single year. And then they did add one thing to the highest end version, which is going to be a blood pressure sensor or a blood pressure monitor. Now again, they say it's in beta. As of right now, there hasn't been a wrist wearable that can measure your blood pressure, at least at a consumer level, that's out or FDA approved. So right now that is in beta through the Whoop ecosystem, but that does open up the door to Apple to really capitalize on what Whoop is doing, or in my opinion, what they have failed to do. So first off, some of the software features that most Apple Watches or new generation Apple Watches should get would be better sleep apnea detection, a much more enhanced sleep stage accuracy when it comes to tracking your sleep. So those things will be coming from a software standpoint. And as of right now, Apple, you can actually track your sleep. Of course, we've had that for a couple years now, but it's still a little bit bare bones when it comes to the data that you get. It lets you know where you were sleeping, when you were in deep sleep, but Apple's avoided this whole like sleep score to not really gamify it any more than it already is. But I would be curious to see what Apple does to really kind of help put a unit of measure to your sleep accuracy or your sleep score overall, to see how Apple really goes about doing that. Maybe if it even is just a spectrum of colors where green is good, red is bad, so you don't have to do a score out of 100 like a lot of these other kind of fitness wearables do. Curious to see how Apple kind of approaches that moving forward. And then enhancements to training load and the vitals application for me are going to be huge, right? Because WatchOS 11 introduced them, and it's normally in that second generation of a new app or a new feature set where Apple really goes all out and really kind of enhances all the features and learns from feedback of its customers, with training load especially. So with training load, it basically is a way to understand if you've overtrained, if you've undertrained, if you're kind of right in the middle, to understand exactly how your body's reacting to some of the exercises that you're doing. And training load has been great in order to see, hey, I'm above the grain, or hey, I need to go out and work out a little bit more. But again, it's still very bare bones, and the metrics, aside from just a score of 1 out of 10, there isn't really much that goes into it. So I'm curious to see what Apple does with training load. And then the vitals application will also take into consideration a new piece of hardware, which should be coming for blood pressure monitoring on your wrist. Again, let's see how Apple handles this, because it's still not FDA approved, but if anybody will be able to do it, it's Apple, because they've already got FDA approval with a lot of their other wearables, like their AirPods for hearing loss. So again, a lot more enhancements coming to the fitness and wellness side of things. And then again, a big story this year with iOS 19 is going to be accessibility, and that's going to trickle over to your watch as well, with the big one being live captions and real life translation in real time directly on your Apple Watch. So for instance, you're watching a movie and you don't have your phone on you, or you can't really hear, being able to then have live captions on your watch immediately will show up. And same thing when it comes to conversations, being able to live caption conversations, and anything where there is voice and something to transcribe, it'll be able to happen live on your Apple Watch with accessibility features coming with iOS 19. And then lastly, when it comes to compatibility and then as well as release and timeline, for release and timeline, we will get the announcement on June 9th at WWDC. I will add it to my Apple Watch Ultra 2 the moment we're able to. In a beta standpoint, I would not recommend doing the initial beta of a first big software, but that's why we're here. And then in terms of public release, it should come out alongside the new iPhone 17 lineup and the new Apple Watch Series 11 and the new Apple Watch Ultra in September or early October. And then when it comes to compatibility, it'll probably be able to be used with an Apple Watch Series 7 or newer, with any Apple Watch SE 2nd gen or newer, and then of course the Apple Watch Ultra, the original one, all the way to the newer one. So from a compatibility standpoint, that's what it looks like it's going to be having with watchOS 12. But let me know in the comment down below what you think. Are you excited for watchOS 12? Are you more excited for maybe future hardware of watchOS that comes alongside of it with a new Apple Watch Series 11? Do you think we're going to get blood pressure monitors built into the Apple Watch? I know it's been rumored for a couple years now at this point, I believe all the way back to the Apple Watch Series 7, but let's see if it actually comes, especially now that there is competition in the space, albeit in beta and not FDA approved or anything like that. But if Whoop did it, I don't see why Apple can't just add the monitor to their actual Apple Watch right now and then totally just cannibalize Whoop completely. Because again, for the price of an Apple Watch every single year, that's what you have to spend to be able to use Whoop in their ecosystem. And again, that's just a fitness device. It's not anything close to what the Apple Watch is on top of being a fitness and wellness device. But that's just my 2 cents. Leave a comment down below what you think. And if you are a Whoop user, what brings you back to that? I'm very curious. But if you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to watch more videos like this one, definitely check out one of these videos right here. If you haven't seen the tvOS 19 video, definitely check that one out. But until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everybody.